This morning, plea rejected. Premiers around the country rule out sending their doses to Sydney. Lockdowns extended by 4 weeks. New rules for politicians, naming and shaming for MPs who won't complete sexual harassment training. And we finished meeting off our state and territory leaders around the country. It's Thursday, the 29th of July, 2021. Good morning, thanks so much for your company. Sydney case numbers continue to rise and premiers around the country, as well as the federal government, have turned down requests for extra Pfizer doses. This is what Premier Gladys Berejiklian said on the radio in the midst of the Victorian lockdown last month.
Victoria wants some of our Pfizer vaccines. They're not getting it.
No, I can't.
Good.
The feds are giving them more anyway.
Okay, so they're
more.
not coming from New South Wales.
No, the federal government has from last week given them more AstraZeneca, I think. But
why does everyone look to us to save their own stupid decisions?
I can't comment on that. I keep saying to people, it's not for me to comment on what other governments do.
Yeah, but off the record, what do you think?
We've got the confidence that our system's in place, our public's used to doing things a particular way, and it's a question of trust.
Following a meeting of National Cabinet last Friday, this is what Mark McGowan said was decided.
The decision of National Cabinet is that other states won't be providing their share of Pfizer to New South Wales. I understand their problem, but we're not prepared to give our Pfizer over. We need to get people vaccinated just like every other state does. We are helping New South Wales with contact tracing. I understand we're helping with testing as well. So we're looking at whatever we can do, but we're not prepared to hand over our vaccines.
He was joined by Daniel Andrews, who did say that if after consultation he is able to direct doses to Sydney, he would be open to the dialogue.
Allocated. We have barely enough vaccine allocated to any of us. So the notion that we would be sending it away from here to, we've all got need, all of us. I'm not opposed to New South Wales receiving more, and in fact they have received more in the most recent bring forward because of the really difficult circumstances they face.
Yesterday morning, Gladys Berejiklian announced an extension to the current lockdown by 4 weeks. Following what was described by some as freedom marches and illegal protests by others, New South Wales Police set up Strike Force Season to target offenders who attended the protest in Sydney. 63 people were arrested and charged, 20 were refused bail, 90 penalty infringement issued, and the community has made over 10,000 reports to Crime Stoppers. They're all being investigated by the 22 detective strong team.
They're not concerned about people's well-being. Like, they could clearly see that I was in distress because they are pushing me into a group of people, right? It's not about containing a virus. It's about containing you. Until people realise that, we're going to be stuck in this country.
Gladys Berejiklian said she was utterly disgusted and that the full force of the law would come down on those breaking it. In landmark changes following the shocking story of Brittany Higgins' alleged rape in a federal minister's office at Parliament House, a review into the parliamentary workplace was commissioned by the government. It was undertaken to report on procedures and processes relating to serious incidents. The report listed 10 recommendations and the government accepted them in full. One of them included committing to reform of the current system and an expectation that all parliamentarians clearly articulate that assault, bullying and harassment is unacceptable. New reporting frameworks and that the framework be based on underpinning clear, appropriate workplace behaviour. Another recommendation mentioned stricter rules and enforcement of access to Parliament House after hours by parliamentary staff. This week, though, Queensland Liberal National Party Senator Gerard Rennick has hit out at a new program based on harassment training. He told NCA Newswire he didn't intend to sign up, adding he attended the Women's March for Justice in Canberra earlier this year. If the federal government wants to get serious about helping women, it could look at funding restorations of maternity wards in regional Queensland. On Monday, the Morrison government announced training would be compulsory for all coalition ministers and staff. Ministers who refuse training have been warned they may lose their frontbench position. Training is optional for backbenchers. A new Resolve political poll released last week shows Scott Morrison in the lead as preferred Prime Minister. He's at 45%. Anthony Albanese is trailing at 24%. 31% of voters prefer neither leader. Morgan Polling has the Liberal National Party at 39%, the Labor Party 37% in polling, 11.5% for the Greens, and 3% would vote for Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party. 9.5% would vote with other parties. And at 6 News, we want to hear what you have to say. So join the conversation on Twitter using hashtag 6NewsAU. Next week, we'll share your thoughts on Australian politics. If you have any questions or anything you'd like us to dive into, head to our website, 6newsau.com, and contact us. Heading overseas, the BBC has called on the Chinese government to stop attacks against its journalists. The broadcaster says a post by the CCP called on people to find the whereabouts of their reporters and crew who were covering recent flooding. Recent comments on the posts included death threats. In addition, journalists from other media organisations were subsequently confronted by an angry crowd looking for the BBC team. You can see that in this Twitter video. Journalists from foreign media have often been monitored closely by Beijing. Last year, the remaining 2 Australian journalists in China were rushed out of the country over fears for their safety. Australian Cheng Lei was also formally arrested by authorities in February of this year. Last week, we met the premiers of Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. This week, we meet 3 more of the country's state and territory leaders. Peter Gutwein is the Tasmanian Premier. He's a member of the Liberal Party. He became an Australian citizen at the age of 16. Stephen Marshall is the 49th South Australian Premier. He's a member of the Liberal Party as well and is the member for Norwood. Liberal leader Michael Gunner is the Premier in the Top End. He's the first Chief Minister to be born in the Northern Territory. And just before we go today, this Sunday on 6 News, our rural reporter Dusty Fitzpatrick will be covering the relaunch of Sky News Regional, which is switching channels across regional Australia on the weekend. There's a lot of concern from some about the impact it might have on communities, while others say it will give them an alternative choice for news and opinion. That special report airs this Sunday. And that is Press Gallery for this week. Thank you so much for your company. Again, Leo will have 6 News this Sunday from 8 p.m, so join him for that. I'm Christian Penny. Have a great day.